Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful idea that's shaking up classrooms, and it's called thematic teaching. Now, what does that mean? Well, think of it like this. It's about tearing down those old walls between subjects like math and science to create one big, connected learning experience that actually makes sense.
I want you to think back for a second, back to when you were in school. You remember how it was, right? You had math class, then the bell rings, and you'd run to science class, then history, all in their own little boxes, completely separate. Well, thematic teaching comes along and just flips that whole idea on its head. It weaves all those subjects together around one single theme for a truly integrated experience.
So that leads to this really big question, doesn't it? What if learning wasn't just a checklist of different subjects you had to get through? What if it was more like exploring a giant, interconnected web of ideas? I mean, just imagine what that would feel like for a student.
And that right there, that's the promise of thematic teaching. So let's get into it. What exactly is it? And more importantly, how does it build that bridge between what kids learn in a classroom and, the real world?
Okay, so at its heart, it's pretty simple. It's an approach where all the lessons revolve around one central theme or topic. And that one little change, it does something amazing. It helps students start to see all these connections between subjects that they never knew were there. Everything is suddenly linked together by this one big idea.
So you start by mixing those subjects together, and when you do that, something really cool happens. Students get way more involved, more active in their own learning. But that's not even the end game. The real goal here is getting to that real-life application, turning all that stuff they learned from a book into something they can actually use.
Okay, but why is this such a big deal? Why does connecting everything matter so much? Let's talk about the power behind this approach and what it really means for students.
Well, the advantages are huge. For starters, it makes learning actually mean something, because students can see how it connects to their own lives. Naturally, that boosts their engagement. But it also helps them develop those really crucial skills, like critical thinking. And for teachers, it's an incredibly flexible way to build their lessons.
Let's zoom in on a couple of those big ones. First up, engagement. I mean, it just skyrockets, right? When what you're learning actually feels important and relevant, you're just naturally more motivated. And then there's flexibility. This isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. Teachers can easily tweak it for different age groups and, for the specific needs of each kid in their class.
And listen, this is so much more than just memorizing a bunch of facts for a test. Thematic teaching is really built to develop skills you need for life. We're talking about critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, collaboration. All these puzzle pieces come together to create a really capable, well-rounded learner.
All right, so we've talked about what this is and why it's so great, but now for the practical part. How does a teacher actually, build one of these things? How do you create a thematic unit from scratch?
Well, there's actually a pretty straightforward 6-step framework. First, you've got to choose a theme, something that's going to grab the student's interest. Second, you figure out your learning objectives. What do you want them to know by the end? Third, you start linking up the different subjects. After that, step 4, you design some really fun hands-on activities. Step 5 is getting all your materials ready. And the last step, number 6, is figuring out how you're going to check for understanding and assess what they've learned.
Okay, a framework is one thing, but it's always better to see it in action, right? So let's make this real. We're going to walk through a quick example to see exactly how this whole process looks in an actual classroom. So, for our case study, let's pick the theme water conservation. This is a fantastic example because, it's super relevant, it's important, and it just connects so easily to all kinds of different school subjects.
All right, let's start connecting the dots. In science class, you could learn all about the water cycle, right? The basics of conservation. But then you hop over to math class, and you can take that knowledge and actually use it. Students could measure how much water their own family uses and then create graphs to see the data. See? The connection is instant. It's practical.
And it doesn't stop with just math and science. In language arts, maybe they write powerful essays trying to persuade people to save water. Or maybe they write creative stories. Then in social studies, they could research real water issues happening right there in their own town. And you tie all of this together with experiments, big projects, it creates this really rich, deep learning experience.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, what's the big takeaway? What's the point of all this? It's really about a massive shift, moving away from just memorizing random facts and moving toward building a real, deep understanding of how the world is all connected. At the end of the day, thematic teaching really does have the power to completely transform education. It just makes learning more meaningful. It helps kids see that the world isn't a bunch of separate subjects, it's one big interconnected place. And when they connect those dots, that's learning that lasts a lifetime.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, a parent, or just someone who cares about learning. How can we start connecting the dots for the young people in our own lives, in our own communities?